Testing 1, 2.
Is it King where the speaker? Hold on. Let me turn my volume all the way up. Yep, it's picking up. Picking up what?
But is it picking up?
Oh, I got my microphone muted. You try it. Speak on it.
I'm just wondering if we're. Oh, this is still on.
I think you're here. All right, I'm going to call the meeting of the General Government and Finance Committee to order at 6:05 p.m. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with Section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call. All members are present with the exception of Trustee Kaminsky, and she is excused. With that, we will move on to the approval of the minutes of February 20th, 2023. Go ahead.
I will move for their approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes of February 20th. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment?
Civil Catholic.
Is that on? Oh, sorry.
Scott Heffley, W159 and 10514 Old Farm Road, Germantown. Couple comments for GGF. When I look at, obviously we have a lot on the plate tonight, but I'm going to talk about the something that should have been brought forth here, in my opinion, which is the audit that's being talked about at the village board, but this is GGF, which is finance. I think financial things should go here. So my comments are related to that. And again, I know there's no comment or anything related to that, but I'm going to just state that what was told to us as residents, 8/15 of 22, this very commission was told this was a year-end bonus of 1.1 million and was presented to be used for two things: replenish the self-funded village health account and renew the contract for the assessor. The numbers for this fund should end up close to 1.1 million. Okay. 10/5 of 22 at the committee of the whole meeting, it was advised the 1.1 million surplus was a result of higher permit revenues of warm winter resulting in lower salt use and staff turnover, which means, I don't know, perhaps extra money from positions not being backfilled. I don't know. That's what was presented to this committee of the whole. And then in November 21st, it was presented to this committee that the village staff wanted to use $200,000 from the year-end bonus, in quotes, for 62 full-time, 26 part-time. So obviously there was a lot of confidence in the $1.1 million number. Okay, again, this should be presented in its entirety at this commission. This is GGF. The F is for finance. So ongoing, there was strong confidence the budget surplus would be very close to the number that's been presented in the past. A few of us pushed back because the number was unaudited. So there'll be more at the village board meeting on a presentation, but suffice it to say, I don't know why items like this go right to the village board and not presented to GGF. General government finance is this commission. Financial things go through it. Trustee Miller has a background in accounting. I think it's a perfect place to bring things up. I'll have the rest of my comments at village board. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else for public comment? Yeah, Jen.
I don't know if you received this, but I have a comment from one of my residents, so I'm going to read it. It's been getting stuck in the mail. So this comment came to me from the Schneiders. I don't know their address. Did you get it? Did you? Okay. But one's for GGF. Okay. Please explain, how do you pick the communities to use for comparison? The populations are from Heartland, 9,566, to Tosa, which is 48,984, and in between. Which populations are not listed on the chart? And this is for fire and police. Nor are there EMT calls and fire calls that are listed, nor how many years the chief has for experience or what his credentials are. First, Tosa is a conflict of interest due to the village administrator lives in Tosa, which was also the highest paid chief too. Please inform us where the $11,108 of funding would come from. Please go back and recheck your comparison of communities that you chose the merit raises versus no increase of pay for the fire chief. Why don't you use the same list for both, not come up with whatever fits the needs? And this is from the Schneiders. This is for GGF. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else here for public comment? All right, if not, oh, yeah, go ahead. Come on up.
Quick. I'm just a little slow today. Okay, so it's real short, I promise. So anyway, this is regarding the well protection guarantee. Thank you for the email, and I did listen to the video again today. So it was very interesting and very informative. But I mean, I watched it the first time too. So I have a really good understanding now of how water gets to us. But what I would like to see is a well protection guarantee, which we've talked about in the past, but has not come up since the referendum had gone through or whatever. But I'd like to see what your, obviously it's why I'm here. I want to find out what your ideas are. But I have my own ideas, what I'd like to see, because my well would be directly affected if something happens, because I'm not very far from your hole in the water or the ground, whatever. So the village pays, I'd like to see the village pay for an initial and an annual water analysis, and also a check of depth to water for each well within about a mile of the well 12. I'm not saying it has to be exactly a mile, but something around that area. And then also I'd like to see the village agree to pay for any well that has a problem that is associated with the drawdown of its water, including a pump failure, like if you lose suction in your well, it's because your well is not getting enough water, your water's drawn down, now your water's not pumping, and now you burn your pump out. So you need to replace the well pump and you need to lower it so that you can get it into the water again. So I'd like to see them agree to pay for that if that happens. I'm not saying if my pump breaks, my problem, my pump broke because it's old, so that's my problem. But if it breaks or stops running because of this loss of suction, that's different. I would blame the drawdown for that. And then also if there's a need for you to drill our well deeper because we're not getting enough water, or they need to drill a brand new well, which can happen too if you don't have enough water. So, and then the third thing would be, which isn't really the third point, but anyway, I'd like to see the village pay for any mitigation system such as reverse osmosis. If my well, like my neighbor's well, happens to pull up because their well is too deep, it gets water that comes from a layer that happens to have arsenic in it. And that can happen if you pull out too much water out of the ground. That sandstone layer has arsenic in it, and it can create that vacuum or the air, the oxygen gets in there, and there you get arsenic. And then you need to put in a reverse osmosis system. So if that happens to me, which I currently do not have a problem, I have my water tested, it is fine. I don't want a problem. If it happens after they bring that well online, I'm going to blame the well. So then I would blame the village, and then I would like to have them pay for that system, please. Thank you.
Great, thanks for your comments and thanks for coming. Is there anyone else here for?
Could you state your name and address? Your name and address, sorry. Thank you.
Is there any, excuse me, is there anyone else here for public comment? All right, if not, I just have one comment, and Scott, you are exactly right. Usually GGF does deal with the audit. However, tonight there were 2 trustees that requested it be on the village board, and I thought it would be redundant to do it here and at the village board. That trumps it. 2 people requested it goes on to the village board agenda, so that's why it's moved over there. So with that, we will move on to new business. Item A, Resolution 05-2023, disallowance of claim. Rachel Malug, I hope I pronounced that right. And with that, who's going to start this? Trustee, I'm sorry, Administrator Kreckle?
I can start. We have received a claim related to some vehicle damage with an incident with the Germantown Police Department. We have Chief Snow here who could probably provide some information on the details of the incident and the claim. We also have the village attorney who could talk about the process that we need to follow.
Please, Chief, come on up.
This incident stemmed from a investigation that involved the Metro County Drug Unit, and a number of our officers, a number of their deputies were involved. This was up in the parking lot of Latitudes Coffee Shop. The target in this case, when we went to go make contact, when the county went to make contact, they fled. They requested backup. 3 of our units responded from a location that was just down the road. It was basically a controlled buy. As our canine officer approached the parking lot, there was a lot of vehicles parked in the parking lot. He came into the parking lot, applied his brakes. He was not able to stop his vehicle in time before colliding head on with a parked vehicle that was parked in a stall. There was no injuries to any officers, but there was significant damage to both our squad and the residents' vehicle.
Any questions for the chief before we move on? Yeah, Trustee Myers.
Do you know if that was a rental vehicle?
The vehicle that was struck,
Yes.
I do not know if that was a rental.
Thank you.
I mean, I was under the impression it was her personal vehicle, but I guess I'm not positive.
Great, thanks. So with more information, just like to get a little bit of background. There was a report provided in our packet about the claim and about an opinion as to the amount of the claim. And I guess we'll go to the attorney for a little bit more information.
Sure. As you've heard me say fairly recently, in fact, this is really a what we would call a discretionary act. There's likely immunity that is involved here. It's not like the officer intentionally or recklessly in some way damaged the vehicle. And so as a result, immunity probably applies. What you have in the packet is a reflection of effectively what we tried to do with the basement damage claim with an adjuster that came in and said, hey, you know, they're claiming X. This is really what the value of that claim actually is. So if there was a decision to pay the claim, that information would be available for you. But with that said, it would nonetheless be my recommendation to deny the claim. I know it's easy to look at the dollar amount and say, well, it's only $4,000. We should just pay it. And we never have any problems when it's that, but if, somebody was seriously injured and we were talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical bills instead, then we would of course deny the claim. And so, from a consistency perspective, my recommendation is just always to deny the claim unless there's a legal basis why we should pay it, which I don't see here, so.
And just for a little bit more education, if we deny the claim, what is the complainants or the person filing the claim, what is the process for them?
Sure. So they would, at that point, then file a lawsuit potentially against the city or village, I should say. My guess is that they probably wouldn't do it in this case. I'm assuming she probably has insurance of her own that would then probably look to subrogate the claim against the city or the village. We would get looped into that process through the subrogation.
To the insurance company's
Right.
process of subrogation. Yep.
Right.
Okay. Committee.
Just one other question to Ryan.
Yeah, Trustee Myers.
Basically speaking, the only cost that she would have with her insurance would be the deductible if she had any. Would that not be correct?
Correct. Assuming she has fairly standard insurance, yes. That typically the deductible would be what she would be responsible for, and then anything above that would be paid by the company, who then would, that's the subrogation process. They'd look to recoup their cost through the folks that they think are responsible.
And if her car is parked, it might come under comprehensive also, where she might have a deductible, but less than that also.
Yeah, that's really for her to figure out as it relates to how she handles it. But
Thank you, Brian.
I read over all the detail, and I agree with Sonny's decision here, not decision, but his recommendation here to deny the claim. So I guess at this point, I would make a motion to adopt Resolution 05-2021. 23, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is on the paper as 21, so it's a typo.
Sure. 23. Oh, I was using what I just given to it. Second.
All right, we have a motion. Any further discussion on this claim? If we deny this, does this go to the village board?
Correct. Ultimately, the village board is the party that's responsible for approving or denying claims.
It goes with our recommendation to the village
Correct.
board. All right, thank you.
And just so everybody is aware, we will likely do that with a potential closed session attached to it, just so that we don't have a repeat of the last time we tried to do one of these in open session. But
Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, with that, we will move on to item B, salary discussion, police department. This is Chief Snow as well. If it's easier to come to the other podium, go right ahead.
Thank you. I brought this forward for a number of reasons. If you read the municipality publication, the February publication was largely dedicated to policing. PERF, which is the Police Executive Research Forum, has now called the increase in resignations and retirements an evolving crisis. And that's what we're dealing with right now is a crisis. And that's why I did need to bring this forward to try to find a resolution to what I think is going to be a significant problem moving forward. Recently, over the last couple of years, a number of municipalities around us have made some significant adjustments to their administrative salaries. Jackson did it, I think, 2 years ago. Washington County just did this last year. West Bend has done it within the last couple of years. And I provided those salaries for you to look at and kind of where we're starting to lose ground. I think Germantown was always kind of that gold standard when it came to law enforcement and hiring law enforcement. We were the place to be. I still feel like we are, of course, but we're losing some of that competitive edge that we've had in the past. This is especially concerning, not just in our command staff, but with our clerical and dispatch. We are more than likely losing another dispatcher to the county sometime at the end of this month. Another dispatcher had applied with them, but pulled out. We just can't compete with them when it comes to salaries right now. There's just such a difference between us and Washington County and Fond du Lac and other surrounding agencies. We have lost what we never seen in the past were officers retiring before the age of 53, before they were eligible for their maximum pension. And we're seeing that frequently now. I lost a lieutenant recently that was not at age 53. I lost another one that was 53, but would have served more years. And recently, within the last year, the same thing with another lieutenant that was 53. But these people are all in the private sector now. They're not retired per se. They're only retired from law enforcement. They're going off into the private sector just because it makes more sense for them to do that. So I put together what I thought was, I think, a wage scale that keeps us competitive and addresses a number of issues that the village has been concerned with in the past. First, I understand the concept of that, earning those raises through performance, and some of the tiered things that we have here depends on clerical or command staff reaching certain milestones to get to that next tier, whether that be training for dispatchers and clerical that we can provide on site, virtually, for lieutenants achieving that executive training, whether that be the FBI, NA, staff and command, or a number of different options that are out there. We have an administrative assistant that has been here 32 years. That's just vital to our operations. And these are the people that I'm trying to retain moving forward. I provided a total cost and the cost for 2023, and I think there's probably some costs missing when you look at and I didn't check with Matthew on this, but I think those numbers are close though. And whether that means, looking at what was going to be allowed for bonuses this year and next year, along with salary increases, and taking that money to address some of these issues. I'm just concerned moving forward that I'll tell you, we're in the age of free agency in law enforcement, whether it's lateral transfer, and now we're seeing you have Waukesha County that's hiring supervisors from outside agencies. Part of the issue is we're becoming so young that people eligible for some of those administrative positions, some of the people are just not ready for that, and they're looking at outside agencies. And that's my concern when you look at what Washington County is paying even their lieutenants with take-home cars. It's being harder to just stay competitive with some of those agencies. I just think it's something that I need to address, and that is why I brought this forward.
Trustee Myers.
Just for the sake of everybody, could you give those numbers out, please, that you have in mind?
The cost per year and the
Right.
cost for 23.
Just for everybody here. I don't know if
The cost per year would be $107,000, 783. The cost for the remainder of 2023, and that would be assuming I used April as that start date. So if April was the start date, would be 71,855. And again, I'm sure those numbers are missing what, Mr. Krecklo?
Well, there's probably some, the Social Security, Medicare contributions would make that a little bit higher. So it probably, if you're looking at the cost, I'd round up, maybe $115,000 or so per year.
To the annual budget.
Yeah, and maybe $75,000 cost this year. I would just add a couple of alternatives, I think, for this year for funding. One is there is some funding available for a public safety grant that the police department received that could be applied for this. The other alternative is that the village board has set aside $500,000 for design of the new police facility. I think overall the project will probably end up costing at least $500,000, but it's unlikely that we'll spend that much this year. So you could redirect $75,000 of that ARPA funding for the police design and use that to fund the salaries this year if you choose to go forward. So I think there are two options there. I should point out those are both one-time funding, and if the board does go forward with this change, there would be a pretty significant impact on the 2024 budget. To put it in perspective, our overall levy increase last year was this would be about half of our overall levy increase that the board would usually adopt. So it's a pretty significant chunk. Not saying we can't do it, but just you should be aware that it's a big chunk of that.
You had mentioned a grant the grant wouldn't cover the entire, let's say $75,000 if this moves forward.
That grant, I have to go back and check. I don't know that it can be specifically used for this. What it can be used for, though, is different line items that we would be able to save
I see.
from that grant. The grant is $45,000 that we have not used any of that grant to this point.
Additional questions. And that 45,000 is that money that we have or that we are applying for?
We have, that money has been allotted to us.
Okay.
Every municipality in Wisconsin was allotted a certain amount of money, and ours was the $45,000. We have to basically apply for it as we make expenditures.
And then my last question would be, where does this put us? I know where we were in the past because Many times, as a county supervisor, Germantown would be taking potential people from Washington County as such. Where does this put us? Where, as far as in the middle, a little bit above with these amounts?
It would, I believe it would put us above the middle, but probably behind West Bend and the county.
Thank you, Chief.
Trustee Nyrider.
Chief Snow, I guess when I looked at this over the weekend, and this was brought out, one of the things that you or whoever put in here was that since 2020, we've lost 3 experienced lieutenants in their early 50s, which you talked about. 2 went on to work in the private sector. Well, there's no way that the village of Germantown can compete with the private sector. That's an impossibility. So their leaving is it saying they went for more money or lesser responsibility or whatever? I don't know that. But I guess what bothers me with this is we just went through the budget process. And this would have been an ideal time to bring this up, last October and last November, to bring this up now in March and see where we can hop it out of the budget. And I'm so tired of hearing about, well, maybe we can pull it out of ARPA funds. ARPA funds has got to be like a rubber band right now. We just pull at that whenever we want. Yet I have no idea what's even in there. So, I see what you're saying is, yeah, we probably are underpaid to other communities. But the thing is, when communities raise theirs, or if Germantown raises theirs, darn well somebody else is going to start raising theirs, and it has that cyclical effect. So I think we're also studying the police and fire departments to see how many people we can possibly add. And that's a study that's ongoing or just started. And I think this all ought to be incorporated into that so that we would come out of it with one true cost and know then what it's going to cost us to try and maintain these positions or add positions or whatever. That's my only problem. I'm not saying this isn't justified. I'm just sitting there saying, I think the timing right now is poor because and I know it says just discussion on here, so I don't think you're looking for an answer tonight. But I think it'd make more sense to have this all done together with the studies that are being done, because there's separate studies being done here. Nobody knows where they're going to be pulling money from. Let's do it all together, and then we have some kind of an idea of what we may need to do this year, or we may need to do in the budget for the following year.
Trustee Myers.
Brian, is this only for discussion the way it was put in, or could it be a vote? It's fine. It's in there someplace.
The salary discussion, police department.
That is the agenda item, salary discussion.
I just wanted to. A lot of times when you put it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that with the word discussion, members of the public likely would consider that to be just a discussion. I don't think we're looking for, that may not have been the intent, but with the language, I think that's what
That's why I was wondering. So it's always important in regard to the verbiage, the way it goes in, per se. Who was the person, the chief, did you put this in?
I did. In regards to the timing, some of these adjustments to other municipalities, like the sheriff's department, have been very recent. And I think some of this took us a little bit off guard, not entirely. The issues that we're having with our communication center and just trying to retain those dispatchers and that kind of ongoing battle prompted me to bring this forward.
Thank you.
Yes, Steve?
If I could make a suggestion for a process, after tonight, and one of the items that we're suggesting for the village board is to cancel the April 3rd meeting with the election the following day. If the board approves that, the next board meeting will be April 17th, immediately following the next GGF meeting. And one suggestion I have, if there are questions or additional information that the committee would like to see brought back, what you could do is place this on the agenda again at your meeting in April, while also potentially putting it on the village board agenda that same night, so that you could get answers to your questions, and it could be on the board agenda that night as well, so that if it's ready to move forward, or there's enough information out to make a decision one way or another, that would move the process along.
Mr. Chairman, I'd really like to see that put on the way the administrator had mentioned as such. I don't have any further questions myself.
Yeah, I like that idea as well, Bill.
But again, are we tying this as a separate issue, or are we going to tie this as an issue with the hiring of additional police and fire? But because there's no way that's going to be ready by April 17th.
No, I mean, personally, I see those as two related things, but separate things. We have a retention issue right now, and it's more prevalent in the police department than it is the rest of the village, but there is retention items, and I truly believe it's somewhat because of wages. And to me, that is a subject that needs a little bit more immediacy than what the staffing is going to be. Finding funds to fund it for a year is a little bit easier than it is for an annual budget, and we're going to have to find that if we approve it for this year. Not only did we get a couple suggestions, there are reserves. We've been very, very cautious about using reserves, especially for items like this. But there are some funding options on here that we've been given. But I think the harder one is where you're going to find it for the following year in the budget. I do agree that we should probably have it on the next agenda, and obviously this is something that is going to get a lot of discussion at the village board level as well. Trustee Myers.
Just another point for Trustee Bill. Basically speaking, public safety is looking at a possible referendum, but it would not come until April of 2024.
Okay. I think staff has our direction on this for discussion purposes. Is there any other further comments before we move on? All right, with that, thank you, Chief. We'll move on. Well, this is yours as well. We'll move on to the IT position for public safety.
I brought this to public safety a couple months ago, just based off the issues that we are having over at the police department, kind of keeping our head above water with the IT issues that we're having. We're going through a pretty substantial upgrade to our operating system. But aside from that, our day-to-day needs with body-worn cameras, with tracks, everything we do is automated. We are having sworn staff, spending more and more time on IT issues. And again, that's not to suggest that Capital Data is not doing their job. They've been very responsive to us. It's just them being able to kind of keep that consistency of who's over by us, and the time it's taken them to get up to speed with some of these operating systems, but just the time that's needed on a daily basis is just kind of above and beyond what they're able to help us out with. So we brought this forward. Aaron did up a couple job descriptions, one that was for police and fire, one was for police, fire, and DPW. And I did include those with the agenda.
Is this This wasn't part of the current 2023 budget, right? There was a lot of discussion about it, but I don't think we had funded that position, right?
It has not been funded, correct?
Trustee Myers?
I was going to say, you're absolutely correct, Chief. It came before in public safety. I believe we took a vote in regard to, one of my main questions that I had was for both of the chiefs, is this something that you agree to in regard to the language, the way it's stated, which was stated to us that it was. It's not so. I am in favor of it. The only question I have, again, is in regard to where the money is going to come from in regard to this. Mr. Administrator, please.
Well, and this is one of the challenges, especially, well, during the budget process and mid-year, there are a limited number of places where we can go to fund, whether it's the salary increases or whether it is the adding a new position like this. And they're basically the same options that we talked about previously. We could redirect some of the ARPA monies. We could use some of the public safety grant funding and for other budgeted items and then redirect the budgeted items, or we could look at reserves. Short of other than those options, there aren't a lot of tools in the toolbox to try to fund a position mid-year. And also, I should point out, this would then be committing, making a commitment for 2024 budget. And these, there are needs there that are both the salary issue and this one. There's no question that there's needs that need to be fulfilled. There's just limited resources to try to do that. I would also point out one of the rationales for including Public Works in this is number one, there is a need at Public Works as well as there is for police and fire. And number two, there are some non-tax levy funding sources there, the sewer and water utility that could help fund a portion of the position. So it would reduce the levy impact of the position if you chose to utilize it. Now, the other side of that, then you're splitting this position 3 ways instead of 2 ways, and it means there are fewer resources left for police and fire.
If I can again.
Yeah, Trustee Myers?
Yeah, originally when this was been brought up to the public safety, it was our main idea that it would go to police and fire first, and if there was any additional time, it would then go to Public Works. What is that amount that would be needed, Chief?
We talked about like a 40-40-20 split. Like the police department would need every bit of that, maybe a little bit more during the upgrade that we're doing, depending on the timing of this, if at all. But our needs are fairly substantial right now.
So when you're saying 40-40, are we talking about 40,000 each?
40%.
Or percentage? And if it's a percentage, I still need to know the total amount.
Oh, the total.
Compensation.
It was put in as a pay grade 3. I did not bring the pay grades
May
with me.
phone a friend here and see if either the support services manager or the budget manager might be able to help us out with a number there.
Well, let me put it this way, Mr. Administrator. If it was for pay grades 3, that's fine. The only question would be where in that grade, if it is in the middle, whatever. So I'm just saying, I understand that particular part. I would suggest it would be in the middle per se.
I would, for decision-making purposes, I would recommend look at the middle of the pay range. At the end of the day, it depends on who applies and what their salary needs are in order to attract them to the position. So, it could fall anywhere in there, but it depends on how many applicants there are and what they're currently making.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion to fund this IT position, taking the amount of money that indirectly grade 3 out of the design for the public library.
Public police building. the police building. The design money was for the police building.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator.
We have a second?
I'll second it just for the sake of putting it out there.
Okay, we have a motion to approve this IT position. Couple questions I have. First off, a comment. It's not uncommon to have an IT position and a managed service company out there. I have that in my private sector job. I have a person that does all the help desk stuff, immediacy type stuff, and then we have managed services that follow up and do kind of the heavy lifting. Is this a position that I understand you have a big need right now? Is this something that could be village-wide? I think there's a need all over the place for IT, but is that too stretched out for one person?
I think it would be stretched out. If you recall, we had a communication supervisor back in 2019 that retired. The intent was to replace her position with an IT position. What she did was largely IT related. She did supervise the communication center and do all their scheduling and training and everything in that regard. But a lot of what she did was IT, and she stayed fairly busy with that. And we still had some of those tasks divided out amongst command staff as well. But on a day-to-day between the challenges we have, as I stated, with the tracks, the cameras, squad and body worn, and then just throwing the Phoenix into that mix, it's takes a lot of time.
We have a motion to fund this IT position, and this would go to the village board with either a positive or negative recommendation from this board. Is there any other discussion?
Bill wants to have something.
Nothing else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No?
2-1. So it will go to the village board, and we will have this discussion probably all over again. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item D, fire chief compensation. Who's taking this one? Administrator Krecklow.
I'll take this one. The committee may recall that last fall, there was an item that was brought forward that was included in the 2023 budget to increase the salary for the fire battalion chief positions. And that was approved and included in the 2023 budget. In hindsight, what we should have done at that time was also include a salary adjustment for the fire chief. The action that was taken actually put the battalion chiefs at a slightly higher salary than the chief. That was an oversight. So we are trying to correct that and bring that back with a recommendation for an increase to the fire chief salary. And the recommendation that's included is an increase from 93 or 94,000. You know what? I got to put my glasses on here. 93,820 to 104,928, which would put the chief at the midpoint of the pay range. He's currently very close to the bottom of the pay range. And we did include some information for comparison here. We used the data that we had available. We didn't do a special survey for this. We used the data that we had from a 2021 survey. So these numbers are actually probably a little bit higher than what they're showing up in this chart here. As far as the funding for this, did take a quick look at where the fire department is for their budget. With vacancies that they've had so far this year.
God bless you.
I believe that they could absorb this amount within their salary budget. Although having said that, it would, again, create a little bit more of a hurdle for us to jump over when we're preparing the 2024 budget.
Okay. Trustee Myers.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the battalion chief, isn't that open right now? we've been trying to be filled, but we don't have a representative to have the public safety or the Police and Fire Commission look at. Thank you. So basically speaking, part of the money would go from there in regard to that aspect.
Right, there's 3 battalion chiefs that are budgeted, 2 are filled. They are some backfilling that with other staff filling in, so it's not a full savings, but
Right.
but there are some salary savings that I believe could absorb this.
I'll make a motion to accept new business D.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion to accept the increase in the fire chief's salary, and just so everyone's clear, that would be to increase it to 104,928 annually. Correct. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, any further discussion?
Again, I'll bring up the same points that I've been bringing up. Is it's the timing of this again. It's, to put the gun at our heads in March when we're 3 months into the current year budget. And do we need, and I don't know this answer, do we need 3 battalion chiefs? Could we get by with 2? I don't know that. So I guess, well, I'm not saying the salary isn't justified. I'm saying the timing of this again is wrong.
Any, Trustee Myers?
Is it possible that you could give us some input in regard to having the 3 battalions chiefs at this time? At the microphone, please. In the absence of John not being here.
On the spot.
I mean, how long have we been without the 1 battalion chief?
I'll let him answer that, but I think
that's
it's
why I'm
I think-
asking the
I think
question.
it's about a year, though.
You get a call right away when I need to leave. So we operate 3 different shifts. We have 5 members on each shift, one of them being a battalion chief. This battalion chief is crucial. We have 3 different sectors that they all monitor. Mine right now currently is EMS. I'm in charge of all the EMS equipment, going through every single EMS patient reporting, ordering EMS supplies, EMS billing. The next one is going to be your community risk reduction. So pub ed events, doing inspections, working with Safe Built with pre-plans. And then the third one is training. Currently, myself and my counterpart are double dipping with both of them. I'm taking over the training portion and the EMS. So I'm starting to get backlogged with my responsibilities as EMS and the training chief as well. And then my counterpart is also helping with the training section as well. We do have a lieutenant that is in that role currently, but is not assigned to that administrative duty to take over one of these sectors. These battalion chiefs, they are also critical on being on calls as well. They're in charge of any fire scene that we go to, car accidents, fire alarms, whatever that call is right now. I mean, they are there to run and operate that scene. Our battalion chiefs they have a little bit more education. We have a higher requirement for that to be in that management supervisory role.
How long is the 1 battalion chief opening been?
It's been over a year now. We did a hiring process last year, and then we created a acting battalion chief checkoff list. So we do now have 3 individuals that are, I'm sorry, we have 5 individuals now that can be in that acting battalion chief role. However, with that, when they're in that battalion chief role, they get a stipend for being at that, and it's overtime money.
Thank you for explaining that to me.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
I appreciate it.
What do you know?
All right, we have a motion to increase the fire chief to the 104,928. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
2 to 1, motion carries with a positive recommendation to the village board. All right, with that, we will move on to item E, well number 12, private well protection plan. So I'm the one who put this on the agenda. Based on we were kind of waiting for the intergovernmental agreement to see if that was going to happen or not. And now that it has, we can move on with the private well protection. I think at the board level, we've all agreed that we were going to do some type of agreement with the residents to, primarily to the north of Rockfield Road, for their wells, to make sure that if something would occur up there, that they would have some assurances that it would be taken care of. So with that, I wanted to put this on just to say that we want to begin the process, get some type of document started with this, and not sure what that would look like yet, but that was my agenda item. Trustee Myers.
I was going to say, when we were going through this situation with Richfield, they originally, in the document that was given to us, had put $50,000 in there as such. And during the time of discussion, near the end, I made a motion to put it from the Germantown to put $100,000 in there as such, but it never was official on that particular part. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Administrator.
That is correct.
Far.
The agreement, as it was adopted by the board, includes a provision that Richfields establishes an escrow of $50,000. It does not require Germantown to, although that is something the board still could do at this point outside of the requirements of the agreement.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Administrator. So my particular thought, in fact, to be honest with you, I think thereafter, but it's not in the document, the additional 50,000 was also put in by Richfield. So there would be a close $200,000, if I remember right as such. And then I had mentioned in regard to that aspect that it would come from reserves if and when needed as such. So as Mr. Chairman is talking about, whenever this is developed by the administration to put forth to the full board, we can either put those in there as such, officially it wasn't voted on, or I'll make the motion at that time to do the same. Thank you.
My thought on this is it may not be a monetary thing. It's nice that that Richfield is going to put it together $50,000. However, if a well goes bad and it's due to the reason for our well 12 or any part of our well system, the residents do have some protection already, don't they? When it comes to that, is there any? I'm curious myself.
think so.
Like,
The protection is purely political. That obviously, if you had a bunch of residents whose wells were drying up, whatever the cause, whether it was our fault or otherwise, I think that you would hear from those residents about what are the solutions. The fact that it may be caused by us, worst case scenario, I think that push is probably even stronger. But beyond that, there isn't anything legally that would be involved. Certainly as part of the discussions that we've had, though clearly there's been some assurances that were made that we would.
right, and
So-
again, there were some assurances made. We've had a little bit different areas to consider. But nothing has been concrete yet. And like I said, I think everybody was waiting to see what happened with the IGA and what Richfield was going to provide. Larry, you look like you want to talk.
I want to make one other comment before, Mr. Chairman, if I may make one additional comment.
Trustee Myers.
The only reason why I would like to see that put in there ahead of time is because it's quite obvious if you don't have any water, it causes a problem additional to that particular family as such. This way here, if the money was in there, it would be expedite the particular situation where we only would have to do is just do some exploratory work as to make sure that it came from our situation. That's all I wanted to say.
Larry, do you have anything?
If I could add, we have been working in engineering, again, waiting for the IGA to be finalized. And these discussions have been held before as to how does one prove that their private well was a defect was caused by the village's well. To help alleviate some of that, working with Mr. John Jensen, rather, who is the PhD from Collier Wells, who's presented here before, and have Foth Engineering do some research. What we propose to do is there are some devices on the market that we would install on a few wells, is what Mr. Jensen's recommending. A few wells would be maybe 3 of the private wells. Maybe those are the ones we've monitored. And they continually monitor the water elevation in the aquifer. It's a continuous readout. I'm not sure exactly how they function, but we would start doing this probably in June, well before the well 12 would come online, in about a year before it would come online even. And the basis for that is to test and develop a baseline for the aquifer. And that way we'd know how the other wells in that aquifer, the other village wells affect it, and how the residential wells affect it. Along with that, Mr. Jensen is recommending that we do a full analysis on their water. When we were done testing their wells, we did just a bacterial sample, bacteria and E. coli, and to make sure that we didn't cause degradation of the well as far as bacteria. What he's recommending we do, and we would do this, is do a full analysis like we did for well 12. It does. I have it right here. It's probably 15, 20 items. Some of them are aluminum, arsenic, cadmium, calcium, nickel, nitrogen. It does the whole list, and it tells us a basis, again, a baseline for the private wells are setting. And he said short of that, it would be very difficult to impossible to show that a public well has caused damage to a private well. And so we are going to do this. It was our plan to do this, and we figure around June, gets a little nicer out. We'll get 3 devices, contact 3 of the property owners, probably the ones, 3 of the ones we've done before, of 5, and install these devices. That'll give us a baseline, and that's something that Mr. Jensen from Collier has recommended that we do. I think it's a great recommendation to start and develop a baseline so we can see how the aquifers are working and levels before we turn our well on.
Yeah, Trustee Myers?
What do those units run a piece?
I had a quote from last fall. The one brand, they're saying the average price is $600 to $700, and then plus installation. It looks like it's just like a whole new cap. It's built into the cap on the well, and I'm not sure if it's reading it through sound waves or if there's actually a dipper stick in there. I'm not sure how it's reading it. It sounds like there's more than one in the market, but this is just one that came from Foth Environmental as a recommendation to show us these products are out there.
Thank you, Larry.
I think it's going to take a while to devise this plan, and what I would recommend is that we direct staff to start with a draft and get a draft plan going. And we've had quite a bit of it already, quite a bit of discussion at the village board level. So I think we have the building blocks of it, but I'd like to begin that draft process. We have, like Larry said, we have maybe a year, maybe 9 months, but we've got some time to develop this and give some assurances to the residents in that area.
Good idea.
Good.
Yep, wonderful.
All right. Do we need a motion for that? Sounds good. Great, thank you. Thanks for that information, Larry. Appreciate it, and I think that's a good idea to get those monitored. With that, we'll move on to item F, Capital Data Quarterly Update. Are we going to do that tonight?
If I could suggest, since it's already 5 after 7, we could postpone that item till the next meeting. We do have a representative from our health insurance consultant here tonight. Yes, to talk a little bit about the health insurance annual review. If we do have a few minutes to spend on that.
Sure. Can we get a motion to postpone item F?
I'll second that.
All right. We motion to postpone item F to the next meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. With that, we'll move on to item G, Health Insurance Annual Review. Are you going to be able to see?
There we go.
Either podium, whichever one's easier for you to see the screens and. Sounds good.
Oh, I thought you were giving me my
I
clicker.
mean, I can too, if you want. It's
Okay.
up to you.
Hi, everyone. Carmen Winkleman from R&R Insurance. So we're just going to kind of briefly go over where we're at in the health plan versus what we were with in Oxient, and I'll try to make this kind of a quick process for you. All right, so we're going to go over some trends, large claims, and then we'll go through some claims for 2021 through and 22, the wellness program, and then kind of summarize it up. All right, so in through the years, kind of made it a little bit long, but through the years, the dark green or black line is going to be trend, okay? So that's trend of what the insurance industry is. The blue line on there is going to be your maximum cost per employee. And then the bottom line is going to be the expected cost. As you can see, the Village health insurance plan is trending down, okay? So the claims that we have had from moving to UMR is trending down. The UMR has bigger discounts, UMR has better prescription drug programs that we are able to get cost savings in. So as you can see, our trend is definitely going down. Historically, large claimants, the 2022, we have the two large claimants are no longer on the policy. Claim history, it's kind of small, so I very apologize for this, but your claim history for 21, which was from, for Oxient, okay? You had bill charges of 3.7 million, and then your discounts were 1.2 million. The paid claims is 1.5 million, okay? So their discounts are about 38% when we were with Oxient. Moving to UMR, our claims were at 4 million, discounts were at 2.2 million, so about 60% in discounts. The paid claims were at 1.2 million, obviously a lot less than what we had with Oxient. So we are definitely trending down. The discounts through UMR have been substantial, which is obviously helping out the health plan a ton. Again, if anybody has questions, let me know. Wellness, we decided last year that we were going to be putting in a wellness program. That wellness program was called Go 365. Go 365, with that program, in the people that were in the program, which was all full-time eligible employees, we had 60% of those employees hit the silver status, which is great, which is actually something that R&R did, I think the second year, maybe third year. We have about 200 employees that are on our policy. So which means that you guys were doing great. The employees were doing great. They were hitting that silver status. We did have a little pizza party, sorry, not wellness, but we did have a pizza party in order to, reward the employees for getting that status. I'm assuming you have a question. Oh, okay, sorry. So silver status is something that Go 365 gives an award for, which is actually something that does take a little bit of time to do, but if you participate and work by walking and doing your steps and doing your biometrics, it's not that difficult to get to that silver status. Again, small, but in our group, we had 119 subscribers, okay? We had platinum users, 33% of those were platinum users, which meant they got to the top tier of the statuses of Go 365. Gold, there was 10%. Silver, there was 24. So that's where it's coming up to that 60% coming over the silver status. We did have some that were in the bronze and the blue status, but they were still working on it. So we have 96 employees that were on the health plan. And of those 96 employees, 96% got to that silver status, okay? Which means that they were contributing then the 12%. So only 4% did not get to that 12%, which is great. Any kinds of movement or things like that, helping to get to that trend is also helping our health plan. All right, again, move on to the next. Summary, just kind of a brief little summary moving from Oxyant to UMR. Administrative fees. Administrative fees are what they do and use to pay the plan, to administer the plan, pay claims. We were at $20.75. Moving to UMR, we have saved money because we were at $11.97 in administration costs. Discounts were 40 with Oxyant. We're at 60 with UMR. Prescription claims, there was 321,000 in prescription claims with Oxyant. We moved to UMR with their different kinds of programs. We had $225,000. Medical claims, again, 1.5 million. We're now down to 1.2 million. The renewal, before we moved from Oxyant to UMR, the renewal with Oxyant was 13%. When we moved, it was a -2 to go to UMR. This year, we got a 1.2% increase. Obviously, again, trending down. Our history has been not very good with how things have gone, obviously, but that is not something that can be predictable, right? You can't predict if somebody is going to have a large claim. That is something that we can't do, but we can help them through that process and maybe help them identify it quicker. That's the whole point of the Go 365. So kind of went through this a little quick. Any questions?
That's a fantastic trend, and wow, what a difference in savings.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
So thank you. Trustee Myers? Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to add again and thank Carmen and her company and Aaron Hearn spent a lot of time working on these and just to kind of point out, we talk a lot about budget and finding money for other things. Well, this is an example. If we hadn't made the changes that we made a couple of years ago, we'd be going the opposite direction in terms of positions. If those trend lines were going up like they had been and like a lot of places have seen, we'd have a lot more budgetary pain that we'd be going through than we are right now. So I appreciate all the work that they did and for that matter, the village employees, participating in this. I think there was a lot of skepticism at first and maybe still a little bit out there, but they still came and got the pizza. So that was good. And I
They
think
earned the pizza.
grown on folks a bit.
Great. Any further questions? Trustee Myers?
I was going to say, I've been with insurance that I have since I retired as such. Wellness program is just fantastic, to be honest with you, because yes, we save money, but as you alluded to, it makes a difference in regard to the employees themselves in their own health. If you can get these things ahead of time and find out what they are, you can snap them off of the budget and people have a better life, which is the bottom line anyhow.
Correct. Anytime you can do prevention is definitely key to getting claims lowered.
Is this slide presentation that you had, is this something that was given to us? I don't remember seeing it.
It was not in the packet, but we
Could
can
we have
send
that?
that out and we can add that to the website too, if there are people at
We
home.
could send it to the,
I think that's a good idea. I'd like to get a copy myself.
yes. Thank you again.
Great, thank you very much. And thanks for waiting. With that, we will move on to the reports, monthly financial summary, accounts payable, February 21, 25, 28, March 3rd, 4th, and 10th. Any questions, any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any particular comments in regard to anything, not because of the time, but I've gone through them myself. The only thing I would like to see is a little information from the administrator in regard to number 3.
Okay.
Thank you for myself.
Yep, we'll run through these pretty quick. Year-to-date budget comparison, any questions on that? Any comments? Right, with that, we'll move on to community development violation report. Looks like there's only 2 open right now.
Yeah, there are only 2 items on the report, and both of them have been open for some time. You can see that we're still working through the process in both of these cases. In the first item, that was a citation that was issued in May of 2021. And staff will be revisiting again this spring. They've been working with the property owner to make some improvements, and they'll be checking again this spring to make sure that those improvements are compliant. The second was issued in January of 2022, and that is working its way through the municipal court process.
Trustee Myers?
The only comment I would make, Mr. Administrator, is in regard to the second one that you talked about. Usually, we don't end up having to take this to municipal court, so this has probably been worked on for a long period of time to try to adjust it, but just we don't have the participation from the homeowners.
I think that's the goal. This is this case involves hoarding issues, which can be kind of difficult and time-consuming to work through.
Thank you.
All right, is there anything else? If not, we will move on. Our next scheduled meeting will be April 17th, 2023. That's Monday, April 17th. We'll leave it at 6 o'clock, but we may have to move it to 5:30 if we keep up this trend. Trustee Myers?
I was going to say, Angel, we also usually have, when they have the meeting, we have public safety, so you're absolutely right in regard to that. We'll have to do some scheduling in regard to the 3 committees for that particular night. We usually like to have it at the same night, but I haven't talked. Yeah, because there isn't going to be one on the 3rd. That'd be the first meeting for the month. Correct me if I'm wrong.
And I could maybe follow up with you with that tomorrow. I think we may be able to work out the public safety committee meeting if we find a different location, if that would work, because it doesn't involve the clerk staff. That committee
right.
is staffed by police staff. So I think we could probably still work that out, but we would have to find a different location.
I'll see if I can speak to the members this evening, get a consensus, shall we say. Thank you.
No further business, so we will adjourn this meeting at 7:18. Thank you. It will be about 5 minutes before the village board meeting begins.
Interesting. Well, it is what it is.
You know, when Stephen put out the budget, we cut a couple of things, but how you doing?